Hey everybody, Coach B, NXG TV, and today we are going to talk about black belts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. So, what brings this topic to mind? Well, honestly, I'm a 4-stripe brown belt, and I got my brown belt in November of 2017, so I'm almost 3 years in. And I would be lying if I said the thought had not crossed my mind a few times, as well as the doubt and the fear and the concern and all the things that many people may feel in relation to receiving that promotion. So I've done a lot of research, I've done all the reading, and I know most of you guys and girls have too. If you're listening to this video, you're already kind of in the thing, like the same thought process as I am, right? One thing that I came across that I really loved was something regarding the Hobbyist black belt, right? And it was like the truth told through the point of view of a Hobbyist black belt. And in this, he referenced having a hard time even with some white belts, right? And that seemed like earth-shattering, mind-blowing. That doesn't happen because we knew from day one that in jiu-jitsu, size and strength don't matter. Technique conquers all. Let me tell you what, as somebody who's been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for just over 12 years, I began 29, 30 years old basically when I really jumped in the water. So I have had most of my progression through my 30s, and I will soon be 42 years old. So I'm not the biggest guy on the mat. Bam! 12-inch guns, baby. I'm about 155 pounds. So I'm not a big guy on the mat. I'm not at my peak athletically as far as age is concerned. And that's just where I am. Now, I share the mats with MMA fighters, with BJJ competitors, and with many other hobbyists and or self-defense minded individuals as well. So I feel like I have a good idea of what all is on the mats in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right? Also, we have not one, but 2 U.S. Air Force bases in our city, and one of them includes Air War College, Officer Training School, so many other schools. So we have people from all over the country and all over the world traveling here to our city to train, and a lot of them have found their way into our gym. I've been on the mats with UFC fighters, I've been on the mats with Pan Am champions, I've been on the mats with like black belts who have been in the game for 30 years and came up in California under the old school OGs. And so I've felt all these different pieces, and I've had the opportunity to talk with them. And I want to tell you guys the secret. Size and strength do matter. Your age matters. You're not going to be able to beat everybody just because you get a black belt. That's just a fact, right? So when we first started watching Royce Gracie in the UFC back in the early 90s, nobody knew what jiu-jitsu was. So yes, at that point in time, I'm sure a jiu-jitsu black belt could murk anybody. And when the black belts were the only people training full-time, and the majority of like blues and purple belts that might travel around domestically were almost viewed like unicorn status, and we're doing the majority of their training in like small groups and garages without black belts, using VHS tapes or the notes of some lucky person who was able to travel to an actual seminar with a brown belt or a black belt. That's what was being worked on at the time, and kind of how the process was alive. So I feel like at that point it was reasonable to say that the purple belts probably didn't beat black belts, right? Because the black belts were the ones logging all the mat time with like definitive curriculums or like ABC process instruction, while everybody else was just kind of piecemealing it together based off whatever they could get, right? So here's an analogy that I'd like to use and I believe it to be accurate. And some of you guys are going to hate on me for this, and that's okay. I didn't come here on a public forum expecting everybody to love me, but hopefully I'll get some positive feedback, some feedback from some people who have experienced something similar to this, and or that have some alternate input, right? So I like to think of a black belt like this. If you make it to the NCAA level of football, you are leaps and bounds ahead of the average individual, right? Like anybody can play Pop Warner football. If your mom could write the check, then you can get on the team. In junior high, you have to try out, but pretty much no matter how bad you are, you can at least make it like to C team. But by high school, you actually can get cut during tryouts, right? Not everybody makes the team. So to be able to make it to college level football, you are achieving the next level, right? But how many people play college ball and can't make it to the pros or get there and don't cut it? Now, so if you want to look at the average black belt, and when I say average, I mean nobody in jiu-jitsu is average that gets a black belt. You're mildly masochistic. You spent 10, 12 years getting beat up, sweat on, choked, smushed, injuries, etc., and you kept showing up. Nothing average about that, all right? There's a lot of savage, even at the base level where a jiu-jitsu black belt is concerned. But let's say you're like non-world elite level black belt, right? Just the average ordinary guy who trains 2, 3, 4 times a week, one class a day for the duration of that decade or so, right? Excuse me. To me, that's like the college level football player. You have risen higher than that base level that just anyone can achieve, right? And then we talk about those people that go to the pros. So to me, these are going to be our competitors, our competition grade black belts, those guys that are actively competing and in the mix, if you will, at black belt. And there's even a level above that. So when we think about like the NFL or the NBA, there are all-stars and pro bowlers, right? How many people play in the NBA? How many of those people are LeBron James, right? So when we pull up Jiu-Jitsu Times, or we crack open the latest Jiu-Jitsu magazine in the bookstore, or when we jump on whatever our favorite app is and we check out Flow Grappling or the newest EBI event, the people that are making the big dollars, the ADCC champions, the EBI champions, those guys are like the Michael Jordans of our sport. And often the people that write articles and the people that we listen to the most are either those all-star elites or people talking about and referencing those all-star elites, right? So think about it. An NCAA basketball player, NCAA D1 football player is at a tier that is so far ahead of the average person's physical ability in their specific sport or skill, right? And I believe personally that obtaining a black belt the right way, you put in your mat time, you put in your hours, you grind it out, you have the bumps, you have the bruises, you have the injuries, and you have developed some skill through all of that. That's your quote-unquote average black belt. And then your competitive black belts are going to be those pro-level guys. And then beyond that, of course, you have the all-stars of the sport. So to say that you suck at basketball because you make a direct comparison to LeBron James or to Michael Jordan or something along those lines, that's kind of a very skewed perception, right? And that's kind of where I have arrived in regards to what I believe a black belt is, and the variety of different levels of people who will attain the rank of black belt. So give me your opinions. What are your thoughts? Different paths, people arrive in different places, different variety and the variance that you know of or that you have experienced amongst black belts that you have trained with, or even your own path, right? Where do you fall in? Are you an elite level competitor? Are you that average Joe black belt? How do you feel? And what is different to you guys that have achieved black belts what is different compared to what you originally thought it would be, right? Let me know how far off the mark I am. Give some feedback to guys like me that still hope to be black belts one day, but are so far from elite that it'll, make you a little nauseous. Do we deserve them? Or, truth be told, if my coach says, hey, you have reached the plane that you are going to reach, I would keep showing up, I would keep coaching, I would keep training, whatever the case is, because at this point, I just love what I do, right? If they did away with belt ranks completely, it wouldn't set me back any, wouldn't change my mind, and has no real bearing on why I show up. But what are your opinions? Do guys like you and me, if you're an average Joe, do we deserve the rank of black belt? Or should that black belt be reserved only for, the Roger Gracies and the Marcelo Garcias of our world? Anyhow, do me a favor, do the trifecta thing, ring the bell, like, subscribe, drop a comment, whatever I'm supposed to ask you guys to do. But for real, leave me a comment and give me some input. I really want to hear back from you guys. Hope you enjoyed today's episode. We'll see you back soon. Coach B, NXG TV.